Hello, what's up everybody? Jorn here for the Maker of. I'm going to show you something today that I'm pretty excited about. This is an animation which is kind of springy and bouncy, and this is what you expect from an animation, and not just a linear movement, which is quite easy to create, but then again it doesn't look very professional. There are a couple of tricks and tips involved here, and I'm going to show you how to make something like this, and hopefully you can apply it to your own project. So without any further delay, let's dive right into it. Alright, so first off, I'm going to create a new project, um, and I'm going to import a file that I created before. It's an Illustrator file which has all the layers in there. I'm going to choose composition here, so it will create a composition for me. I'll double click it and you see all the layers here already. So it's the thumb, it's the shadow, this is the shadow right here, the gradient. You have the hand with the fingers and you have the circle. Now I want to work with the paths of these files, and therefore I will create a selection, which is the thumb. I will create the hand and the circle, and I do this by pressing command on a Mac, or maybe control I guess on a PC. And then I use a tool which is quite handy. It's Motion Tools 2. It's free for download and you can install it for free. And what it will do, it will convert your layers, your Illustrator layers, to paths. And this is very useful. I'm going to show you in a minute why. So right now I can delete all the other layers. Like the shadow layer I will leave as is because it doesn't really convert the gradient, and I'm not going to mess with it anyway, so I'm fine with that. Okay, now if we look at the position of the hand, and I'm going to move it, you see that the thumb and the shadow will stay uh, in their respective places, and I don't want that. Actually, I want to connect that, if you will. So I will select the top two layers. I go to the pick whip right here. There's this little swirly thingy, and then, excuse me, and then I'll drag it onto the hand. And you see if I move it now, they will move as one. So that's exactly what I want. All right. So since I'm in the position anyway, I will hit stopwatch and it will create a keyframe. And this will be the final position. So I will drag it over to the right. And also I'm going to press S for scale, and I'm going to hit the stopwatch again, creates another keyframe. Alright, so this is also the final scale, more or less. I'm going to press U to see all the keyframes, and I'm going to go back to that final position. I'm going to move the scale over there as well. Okay, now I'm going all the way into the front. And the first position was kind of small, so I'm going to scale it way down, and I'm going to drag it over to the right, so it's just out of outside of the circle, because it's kind of coming out of the circle, and therefore you couldn't really see it once it's outside of the circle. So later on I will mask this, so that's something to worry about for later. Okay, so what we have now is a pretty linear animation, so it's not very exciting. It's just moving from right to left. And actually I think it could be faster. That might help already a little bit, but still it's very linear and it's pretty boring. So how can we shake things up a little bit? Right? Okay, I'm going to show you a couple of things you could do. So first off, I'm going to animate the fingers so they move with the animation, right? And this is a principle that is used in a lot of animations. So it's exaggeration, and it's also stuff that is kind of loosely attached or is rubbery will follow the main animation but with a delay. Okay, so what do I mean? I'll show you now. So I go into the hand, and I go into the path that was created for me. Now I know there's this kind of weird box here, and I'm going to delete it by hitting Alt and selecting one of these points and just hit delete, and that removes all of them for me. And I'm going to go back again, and now I just have the path of the hand. And I'm going to press the stopwatch. So in the final position, the fingers will be as they are right now. But in the first position, I'm going to move the fingers over to the left, as if they swing into the movement. And maybe it doesn't make too much sense right now, but I hope I'll be able to show you in a little bit. So I'm going to put like a whole lot of time in this, since this is a tutorial, but as long as you get the principle, then you can apply it to your own stuff. And so I'm going to move these fingers all over to the left, to the right here, sorry. And this will create a kind of fluent movement. So now they start all the way to the right, and they're going to move somewhat to the left to the end. So you can already see them kind of swing in. But this is not enough. Actually, what I want is that about 2/3 of the way, I want the hand to act as if it were attached to like a rubber band or something. So it builds up tension, um, and it will be slower and slower and slower, and then at the height of the tension, it will be pulled back by this invisible rubber band. Or maybe the thing itself is made out of rubber. And what it will do is just, it will pull things back into place. So at about 2/3, when at the height of the tension, at least what I think is height of the tension, I will move the fingers forward by quite a bit, actually. So exaggeration is key in this. And again, I think it will all become clear once you see what I've done here. So for now, I'm just going to do it. Again, not an amazingly good job, because I'm sure if you know how to deal with Bezier curves, you know how to do this yourself. If you don't, just drop me a comment and maybe I'll do a video on that. I mean, it is it's kind of tricky to work with if you do it for the very first time. But if you get the gist of it, it's actually really helpful. But it's not very intuitive from the start. I do get that. All right, so here you go. Now I have the fingers all going forward. So they kind of swing in and then back. All right, that's already looking pretty good. And I'm going to do the same for the thumb actually, because the thumb is a finger as well. So I'm going to open up the path here, and let's see if I have that box. I have that box again, so I'll hold Alt, select one of these key points, and hit delete a couple of times, and select the path. Hit a stopwatch for a keyframe here, and move it to the end, to where the other keyframes are. Find a position, go to the first position, and move it backwards, just like I did with the fingers. And this doesn't have to be super precise, because actually most of this will be only appearing like halfway through the animation when it's actually entering the circle. So this you won't even see from the start, but you will see the motion though. So it is pretty important to pay some attention to it, obviously. All right, I think this looks pretty okay. And then also at about 2/3, so that would be here where this keyframe is, I would also have it swing forward, just like the other fingers. And this really helps to sell the effect of this being more springy and bouncy, and overall just looking more professional, I guess. All right, so I think that looks good. And the final keyframe we already made, and kind of swing it back in position. All right, so what does it look like? Oh, there you go. Okay, this looks pretty okay. It's a little bit slow, and actually I think it's missing something, because at the final position, when it's being pulled back into place, there will be some residual energy in the finger, so it kind of has to move back a little bit into place. So just a little down again, in my case. All right, so this will be different for every animation, of course, that you do. And this is just some stuff that you can pick up when you watch, like especially the older animations, say Tom and Jerry or something. You see how a ball will fall and will squish, and it's just it's really fun to watch when you know what to look for and to apply it yourself. All right, so now it goes forward and goes back into position, and then kind of has this residual energy and moves back in position. Okay, even though this looks kind of okay, still there's a lot of stuff we can do. For example, when it reaches the height of the tension, I want actually, even though the hand is being pulled back, I want it to stretch further, because it's kind of like rubbery, and that's what rubber would do. So I go back to the scale of the hand. So I go to the hand, I press S for scale, and I will unlock these. So I can play with the individual parameters. So I'm going to stretch it out quite a bit, maybe even move it over quite a bit. And then at the first keyframe, I want to actually squish it a little more. So more like this and move closer to the circle. So it will kind of like really stretch out and then go back. And maybe here squish it just ever so slightly. And then in the final position it will be at 100%. Right. Alright, that looks good. Let's see what it looks like. So we'll come in and yeah, kind of snaps into place. Alright, that looks pretty good. Although I think the whole animation could be a little faster. And how do we do that? Well, first off I'm going to close up everything and then I'm going to select all the layers, press U, and then you will see all the keyframes you have. And you select all of them, you hold Alt, and then you just drag it in. And you see that the relation to each keyframe will be the same. So the animation itself won't be different, it will just be faster. So I want this to be quite quick and swift. Yeah, there you go, that looks pretty good. Alright, some other thing that we could do that's very handy and very easy to do is actually Easy Ease. So you right press and then you select Easy Ease, or I think it's Fn, F9 as a shortcut. That's up to you. But you will see that the animation looks a lot more alive actually. Alright, that looks pretty good. I'm very happy with that. Now, there's another simple trick you can apply. Whenever something is moving fast along your screen, you'll see that it's blurry. This is motion blur. And these 3 circles here, or 4 circles, what is it? They actually, 3 circles, they actually are able to do that for you. So you just select this one here, and then you select those 3 circles here. And same thing. And then you don't have to do it for the last one because it's not moving the circle. And then you will see that all of a sudden it looks much more like a nice fast animation. Alright, this looks pretty cool. Okay, so now that we have everything in place, we want it to appear from the circle, which is quite easy. You just select all the layers that make up the hand, make a pre-composition. I will call it hand. And up next I will create a layer, which is a shape layer. And for now I'm just going to make a very simple rough shape, but normally I would spend a whole lot more time making this look good, but for the purpose of this tutorial I think this will do. Just make a very rough shape of where you want the hand to be. So whatever is covered now is where the hand will be appearing. So the tail of the hand will disappear if you use this as a mask. And how do we do that? Let's rename this and call it mask. We select the hand and then track matte, alpha matte mask, and you see it masks out the hand. So now it just comes out of the hand and jumps onto the screen. Alright, this looks pretty good. Now the only thing to sell the effect a little better I think we can do is maybe create a new layer. It's going to be a new shape layer, and I'm going to drag, I think circle probably would do well, and I'm going to go to effects, apply a blur, and then probably for this one the Gaussian blur is just fine and easy. Apply quite a lot of blur to that, because this is going to be the shadow of the hand inside the circle. So it will be a lot more blur, and then I hit T for transparency and bring down the transparency and put it underneath the hand. And then I want to parent this one to the hand so it moves with the hand. And as you will see now, it's kind of like a shadow, but it's getting outside of the circle. So we actually need to copy the circle and go back to the hand, paste it, and create a track matte from the circle. So now it will only appear in that circle. And there you have it. Now you have a nice cool animation of a very springy bouncy hand that looks pretty professional, and hopefully you can tweak it to your own likings. At least these were the principles, so the ones to remember is that whenever you create something, make it squishy, exaggerate, use easy ease and motion blur. And there's one more thing I want to show you actually, which is something that I forgot now, and that's actually another principle which you could apply, that whenever you have a motion of the main object and whatever is attached to there which is not as solid will follow later. And by that I mean that it's kind of lagging behind. So in this case the fingers, they will be lagging behind. So Now they move back when the hand is being pulled back, but actually that should happen a little later. And I'm going to show you what it looks like when I do that. So the position here of the hand will change here, but the actual thumb has to move a little later, just a little, and that applies to everything of the thumb. And the same for the finger. So the fingers would have that same lag, if you will, and that makes it even look a lot better. See, it kind of swings into place now, and this is better, even more awesome. Alright, I hope you learned a lot, and if you like this video, leave me a thumbs up. If you loved it, then subscribe. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section, and if you have any requests, same thing. Hopefully I'll see you in the next one, and I'm very curious to see what you did with these techniques. Alright, see ya.